As a Spaniard living in the Netherlands, I quickly realized that cultural differences go beyond food or the weather. They shape the way people think, connect, and even say no. Today I want to talk about some of the biggest challenges or cultural shocks I faced as an expat and some examples of experiences that will explain intercultural awareness and psychological principles for cross-cultural communication. Why am I talking about this? So not only I currently live in the Netherlands, I also have a multicultural experience throughout my life. Back to when I was 9, I moved from Catalunya, where they speak Catalan within Spain, to the south, where they speak Spanish. Then I entered university and I had the opportunity to work as an au pair in the UK during that time in summer. And I also worked in the UK as like a summer camp assistant sort of thing. On top of that, I had the opportunity to go on an Erasmus to the Netherlands, and that was my first time in the country. I graduated my first bachelor in primary education with an internship in Belgium. I chose Belgium because I already had connections with the country. My father is married to a Belgian woman. I've been going to Belgium for already, I cannot even remember, 10 years ago, something like that. I decided not to pursue education and moved to the Netherlands with my Dutch boyfriend, and I started a new bachelor program in business, and this opened up new opportunities for me, and one of those was to do another exchange. And this time I went for going outside Europe because I've never been outside Europe, and I chose South Korea. So if you watch some of my first videos, there are a lot of blogs about South Korea. I currently attend an international school of business. On my day-to-day, I study with international students, plus I am currently doing an internship in digital marketing at an international company with an international team. So I have plenty of experiences to talk about, and I have quite some knowledge and understanding of cultural differences. I hope you find this video helpful. It's going to be mainly focused on the Netherlands. The cultural shock that most people know or will know the moment they come to the Netherlands is directness and saying no. There's no sugarcoating. There is simply straightforward answers for clarity and avoidance of misunderstandings. At first it felt really cold, and at times it can even be a bit rude. But later on you understand that it's not personal, it's their way of being honest. They try to be honest by being direct, and they try to avoid unclear situations, and there's no sugarcoating in their communication style. According to Hofstede Cultural Dimensions, the Netherlands has what it's called low power distance, meaning that people see each other as equals. Open communication is often encouraged, and so it's not surprised that directness is one of the qualities of their culture. Spain, on the other hand, has high power distance. We are more careful with what we say. We tend to speak differently depending on who you talk to. So if it's a professor or someone with a title, you will address them more professionally and you will use a language that's more formal. And we would even avoid saying no just to sound respectful and avoid conflict. I would say the high power distance countries are highly people pleaser. Another example is South Korea. That is high power distance, and it is crazy, but that's not part of this video. Work-life balance and structure. Another big cultural thing that you will encounter as soon as you come to the Netherlands, if your country does not belong to this category. In my case, I'm Spanish, so my culture is different than the Dutch one, but if you're German, you won't experience this cultural shock so much. But as a Spaniard, how they manage time, it's very different. They finish work at 5 or 6. Businesses are not open after 6 p.m. unless there's koopavond, which does not happen every day of the week. That combined with the weather, I think it has a huge influence on how they perceive their work days of the week. So basically, it feels like the day is kind of over after 6 p.m. And I think a big reason why this one, the light, especially in winter, there's little light after 6 p.m. So you don't want to be outside having a nice drink with your friends in the terrace because it's cold and it's dark and you just want to get over with the day and relax and unwind, like in Spain. We have businesses open after 6 p.m. There's more light during the day, and people even socialize after work. So you kind of expand your day because you're not waiting for the next day to come. And that's something I realized with Dutch culture. They are just thinking forward. They're just thinking about what's happening tomorrow, what's happening in my next appointment, what do I have to do next. They are not so present in the moment. And that's not something necessarily bad, but the perception of their time, it's very different than the Spanish perception of time. This is kind of connected with another dimension of this framework, and it goes connected with uncertainty avoidance. The Dutch score low on this, meaning they are okay with flexibility, but they still want to plan. They want to plan their days, they want to keep a structure, and they want to be very clear about what happens when. I adopted a lot of this structure and these time principles to my lifestyle right now. In Spain, they have higher uncertainty avoidance, so it is okay to spontaneously say, hey, do you want to grab a coffee this afternoon? Do you have any plans right now? We are just more adaptable to social gatherings in Spain, and this is not necessarily bad. It's just a challenge for people from my culture and similar cultures to come to this society and try to integrate when you're just maybe oftentimes getting rejected because plans have to happen more in a calendar than spontaneously. In other situations, like being mindful about your time and avoiding misunderstandings, I totally adopted those cultural differences to my lifestyle because I value them. So this is not to say that one is better than the other. I think that it's just what you're comfortable with. And I think it's very important just to adapt, to be aware that this is an option and you can change and rewire your brain to communicate in different ways. Let's go for number 3, individualism and collectivism. This is still hard for me, and this is just about how you relate to others. The Netherlands is one of the most individualistic countries I've experienced. People value independence at all levels, financially, emotionally, socially. That's why everyone splits the bill, plans weeks ahead for their own time, and always prioritizes their own space. Something funny I saw one time, I was in the train and I was sitting in front of this guy with big suitcase. He had the big suitcase next to him on the seat. This guy just came, took his big suitcase, put it on the floor and sat in there before even asking. Like, I understand this guy could have just kept the suitcase standing and holding it, but it's not your suitcase. I think it's very rude to just take somebody else's item and put it away. You can always first ask. It's just a waste, you know? And I'm not saying this is like everyone. This is just something that just proves like this guy just wanted to sit and did not care about the person's item. So he was just caring about sitting on the train for his own benefit. You know what I mean? I think in Spain we are somewhere in the middle. We also split the bill, so that's not a surprise to me. It makes sense. The planning ahead, it is... I think nowadays with social media and everything, it's more normal that we prioritize our health. We want to stay active, we want to do this and that. And so you want to make time for everything. So I think now it's normal to make appointments with people, but we're still more flexible. We keep room for changes, last minute changes, and adapt a little bit to the other person's convenience, not only our own. So it is a bit more of a collectivism culture. Let me know in the comments if you disagree to this. Just to give you an example of this collectivism principle, in Korea, it goes next level. We're talking about family name, reputation, job titles. What university did you go to? I mentioned that I was going to Aju University. It's one of the best for medical research, or like medical universities, one of the top. Oh, Aju, de hakjo. Like, ongelooflijk. It is nice in a way to be part of this community, of this collective. However, to that extreme where you're only thinking about your reputation, your name, your status, I think it's also important to, not that I'm going to change that, but I think balancing both is the best. So I like to keep my Spanish cultural background in this regard, because the Dutch is extremely individualistic and Korean society is too collectivism. I like middle grounds. I like to be flexible about my space, my priorities, and also the others, if that makes sense. These cultural shocks are mainly communication and more things that you won't notice and you won't put name to it unless you have studied cross-cultural communication. So I wanted to talk about it because it's really interesting to me. However, I've not mentioned food, I've not mentioned weather, I've not mentioned day-to-day things. I would love to make a video about it if anyone is interested in learning more in-depth cultural shocks and things that the Dutch do. So let me know in the comments if this is something you're interested in knowing, so that I can make another video about it. And please, 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 if you like this video, hit like, and if you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe, because I'm gonna be talking more about my life abroad, more about my life in the Netherlands, how I navigate my day-to-day as a business student. Hit follow, it really helps support this channel. Ciao!